We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Oh, we are back. We are back here on a Friday evening. Jared, you've got places to go, people to see on a Friday night. You're about to make your way to Ann Arbor. Yeah. Did you take up my offer on any of those?
My friend, I have an 8:45 reservation at what's the name of the place?
Well, there's the Dixboro Project. That was the one I sent you, and then the is that the one you're going to?
Yep, that's the one we're going to. So all my fans don't all show up at once. I shouldn't have told you where I'm going to be. I should probably call and give them a heads up.
Oh, boy. There's going to be a crowd. People are going to want to take pictures. We have a doctor in the house tonight. I don't know if they're fully prepared for it. But, it's, we wanted to hop back on. I think it's been almost, 2 weeks since we last did the live. And I think when you get on and you do these during this transfer portal moment in time, it just gets to be a little bit chaotic. It gets to be a lot. And honestly, I feel for anyone. I mean, if you're super into it, like all the transactions and movements or whatever, like you've got to be really enjoying this. But I feel like for most people, it's one of those situations where it's just like, I don't know, whoever they're bringing in, cool. Whoever they're losing, cool. Just let me know when it's done. Let me know what we have to work with. And then I'll find a way to get excited about it. I know that, Jared, you and I talk about this. We text about it a lot. I feel like you were a little bit more resistant to the whole hatred of the portal, kind of distaste and dislike of this era. But based on some of the recent texts I've gotten from you, it feels like you might be coming over to the dark side here.
Portal exhaustion.
Do you have it?
It's portal exhaustion. It's not even that. I still kind of like the transfer portal. I get the point. They need some tweaking. It needs some rules. I think you laid down a pretty good path, which I'm sure you'll bring up later because you always want to take credit for your ideas.
I love to get on my soapbox.
Yeah, I know it's probably number one on there, but no, I agree with a lot of them. I think it's exhausting. I'm just trying to keep track of who's who. And then I saw a stat today that was kind of like made me rethink the whole thing. Like over 10,000 kids went in the portal. Like 6,700 are still unsigned. But there aren't 6,700 positions open anymore.
10,000? And just in
over
this cycle?
10,000. That's what I just saw.
In college football?
Yeah, some crazy number like that. Or maybe it was up there, dude. It was wild. Think about it. So all these schools, dude, that's wild to me.
Yeah.
One school got 68 new kids.
Yeah, well,
Auburn lost every single player that could play football. Like they lost 4 quarterbacks or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's, it was fun. I think I remember, when Michigan was making some key additions here and there, like during the championship run. And, I think during the Harbaugh years when they were it was all sort of new and Michigan would bring in a couple of players to like fit whatever they need to fit it. You had, who was it? Drake Nugent playing center was that the 2023 season? They had Drake Nugent at center, I believe. Yes. So. Transfer from Stanford. So, plugging in little key pieces here and there that you needed. But it's at the point now where you look at a lot of these programs and you try to think of who's coming back on the roster. And it's like, it's almost an entirely new roster. Now, fortunately for Michigan, you're getting some of the big name guys back, mainly, guys like Bryce Underwood and Jordan Marshall. But it's really hard, man. It's hard to, we've talked about this before, get emotionally invested into a team when, you look down at the last count that I had for guys that are entering the portal. Let me just pull up the number here because I want to make sure I get it accurately. So for guys who have entered the portal for Michigan, they've had 28 players enter the transfer portal, 19 of which have since committed elsewhere. And so when you've got 28 guys that enter the portal, I mean, that's a significant chunk of your roster. When you go down here, Jared, you and I talked about this before we clicked the live button that, 28 guys seems like a lot, but when you go through it name by name, it doesn't seem like Michigan has sustained too many big losses. There are a handful on there that you'd like to see come back. So Michigan's lost 28 to the portal. There's some guys who are probably going to come back. I know Eno Etta is one of those guys that it sounds like he's leaning toward coming back to Michigan. But then in terms of guys that are coming in to Michigan from the portal. 17 guys Kyle Whittingham and his staff have landed out of the transfer portal. And I think there's a lot to like about what's there. And in addition to the portal guys, maybe a good place to start is with the guys who are already on the roster. This is another one of those fun parts about the transfer portal era is
fun.
You've got to wait for guys who are already here on the roster to announce whether or not they're coming back, even if they haven't entered the portal yet.
Let's just change that to like Etta is renegotiating, not
renegotiating his contract.
That's what he's in purgatory. He's in between. Like, just say you're renegotiating, man, because that's what gets exhausting. I think I text you about him. Like, damn, didn't want to lose this guy. Turns out the whole he's wearing Michigan shit, just renegotiating his contract.
Yeah. And I know there's a big question about Andrew Marsh and why, at least publicly, there's no knowledge that he signed any sort of contract at this point. But also, Andrew Marsh is not in the transfer portal as of now. The transfer portal officially closes at midnight tonight. So, the window there is limited. You've seen some big names enter the portal today. But Andrew Marsh is a guy, perfect example of where we're kind of at in this current era of college football, where high level guy had an incredible freshman season. He's not entered the transfer portal, but everybody's kind of sitting back and waiting like, oh God, are we going to get that official announcement? We haven't seen him tweet out that picture or, share that LFG picture that all the other players. So every single year, man, it's like, it seems like this is where you're going to be. You go into the offseason and your entire roster is on the chopping block. Some of those guys are going to come back. A lot of those guys are not going to come back. And when you go into the following year, your roster is presumably going to have 50, 60, 70, 80 new guys on the roster. And I'm still not sure whether or not that's good for the overall, world of college football. It's just there's a lot going on. And I think for fans, it's easy to tune out this part. Maybe guys like us are only stressed about it because we're in it so much. I don't know if the average fan even gives a shit, Jared. Do you think that's a big part of it? Like, do you think the average fan even cares about all these transactions and back and forth and who's staying and who's going?
I mean, I think they're paying attention because it's your team, but they're not as in depth as some people are, I guess. I was always, I mean, we were before we were on here. You and I used to text about this, and I have probably 3 or 4 group chats that are dedicated to comings and goings of college football players now. And I have to correct myself. Mike Shook fixed it for me, one of our esteemed fans over here. It's 10,000 across all.
Okay.
But 60, so I did a double take, 6,700 in D1.
Yeah.
6,700 D1 players went into the portal in a 2-week period.
It's crazy. Larry McCall from
again, the numbers are skewed, right? Because we got guys that are transferring to renegotiate. Were they ever really
well, that's the thing. I mean, we
don't know.
Honestly, there's no real reason to not enter the transfer portal every single offseason, especially if you're trying to negotiate a better deal for yourself. I mean, now if you're at the level of like a Bryce Underwood where you've already signed a lucrative deal, it's clear that you are a top priority. Maybe even to a certain extent, that's why Andrew Marsh didn't. It doesn't mean that their agents aren't shopping it and testing the market and getting back numbers. So even in these days, you don't necessarily have to enter the portal. And a lot of times, like all of that stuff, that back channel stuff and those conversations are already happening. And that's why you'll see a high level guy enter the transfer portal with a do not contact tag on them, because those deals have already been worked out long before the player entered the portal. But Larry McCall from the YouTube page says, I'm tired of seeing guys who aren't starters announcing they are coming back. Any team, not just Michigan. Yeah, I mean, that's a part of it. But Larry, I guess what I'll say to this is, in today's era, one of the most difficult things to do with a roster, Jared, I'm sure that you'll agree with this, is building depth, right? Everybody wants to be a marquee guy. Everybody wants to be a starter. And somebody who's not a starter at Michigan can probably go elsewhere and become a starter depending on what the need of that team is. So, even though it's hard to get super excited about guys who aren't premier guys or guys who aren't even technically guaranteed starters on the roster, Larry, you absolutely need depth on the roster. You need to be able to rotate guys. And so I get excited every time I see somebody announcing they're coming back, because that's just one less question mark that we have on the roster.
Yeah, I'm with you. I wonder if he's saying that he's just tired of seeing it in general, like not just Michigan. I don't know.
I'm sure
it's overwhelming because like if you follow sports in general right now, like, I mean, you follow not generic, but an overall college football account on X, it's just transfer this, transfer that, this kicker, that. I saw that what's that ball boy for that one school? He always came out with the big box. Did you see? He put himself in the portal.
Oh my God!
He's in the
Was that a bat? That was basketball though, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's in the transfer portal or something.
Jesus
It's
Christ.
crazy. I
What
love
the
it.
hell is even that?
That's how I feel about a lot of this stuff that I'm
Exactly.
seeing. It can be exhausting for sure. But I think, look, we can get on the soapbox maybe there a little bit later, talking about the transfer portal overall. Let's just talk about the Michigan roster as it is right now. There was some big news that came out today. We'll start with guys that are returning. Like I said, on that list so far, there are 21 guys who are already on the roster who announced that they're coming back. But today, Rod Moore was a big name that we saw pop up. Rod Moore was granted a 6th year of eligibility from the NCAA. He's obviously been battling injury over the last 2 years, hasn't played a lot of football over the last 2 years, and there's some question marks about how much does Rod Moore have left to give. When you go 2 years, you sustain a significant knee injury, and it causes you, a huge delay and a lot of time off. How much more does Rod have to give on the field? I'm not so sure. But Jared, when I saw he was granted the 6th year of eligibility, and when I saw him announce that he's coming back, that's a piece in the secondary, because Michigan lost a lot of guys in the secondary. A lot of them were younger guys, up and coming prospects. But if you can get Rod Moore back fully healthy, 100%, that is a huge boost to the Michigan secondary.
I mean, I'm with you. Just the skill, the experience. I mean, he played sparingly this year, and he had one big interception. I feel for Rod, man. I've experienced a knee injury, like many elite athletes do. Chris, you never had a knee injury, did you?
No, not a knee injury. No, I've had several ankle injuries.
It's usually the elite athletes that get those, but I've gone through it. And
you never know, like call me man the game.
I hate you right now. Anyways, before I was so rudely interrupted. No, I think it's mental for him, man. I really do. I think a lot of it's mental. I think he's got the talent. He's young enough. He's got the experience, but I think having a couple injuries in your knee like that, man, it gets in your head. You know what I mean? I remember even trying to do regular stuff after a while. It was still in my head. And I'm not an elite athlete like Rod Moore. I'm not playing at that level. You just wonder, you got to think, am I good enough to be on the field with these guys? But yeah, experience-wise, bridging the gap, like he's a hell of an addition for sure. Good to see they gave him the waiver. I mean, he earned it. By all the rules of what it was, he earned it. You know what I mean? With those injuries.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys, like a Max Bredesen type guys. It's just, I feel like those guys that stick with the program, even with injury, and they get to like their 5th year, maybe even a 6th year with the same program. I feel like I sent you a picture of one guy. I can't remember his name, but he's on his 7th college. I think it is 7th or 8th college since he's been in college.
Quarterback.
To see guys stick with the same program for that long, I feel like that is going to become a dying breed. Already is becoming a dying breed, but I would love to see Rod Moore be able to get back on track. I do feel like he's got a lot to give. I agree with you. I feel like it's probably mostly mental at this point when you've had enough time off, and you've got to trust the knee, right? You've got to be able to make the cuts and make all the moves you got to be able to make, and trust it and not second guess yourself. And I think that given the amount of time he's had off and the amount of time he's had to rehab, it's kind of like this 2026 for him is like, it's either going to happen or it's not going to happen, right? You're either going to have to get out there and make it happen and be able to continue your football career, or you're going to have to start pivoting and thinking about doing something else. But I think, I got a lot of faith in Rod. He's made a lot of big plays in his time as a Michigan Wolverine. And again, team captain, when you get a guy like that, who's a big time playmaker back in your secondary, particularly after losing so much, I think that that's a huge boost. Obviously, we know the retention of Bryce Underwood was top priority. I did think it was interesting. Did you hear Kyle Whittingham on the podcast talking with Urban Meyer? How, and we knew this, right? We knew it, but he confirmed that Bryce Underwood did not have a quarterback coach during his freshman season. I don't know what it was about, hearing Kyle Whittingham confirm it. I guess there was always a part of me that thought, when Sharon Moore, after the season was over and he was talking about, I think we're going to hire a quarterbacks coach. And then there was like a name floating around of a guy that they were thinking about bringing in. There was always a part of me that thought like, okay, maybe there wasn't like a technically, dedicated guy, but surely they had somebody in that building working with him one-on-one on a consistent basis. And then you listen to Kyle Whittingham basically confirm, the fears that we had. And it certainly sounds like it was, hey, you're a 5-star kid, you're making $10-12 million or whatever, figure it out. And I'm completely shocked that was where we got with Bryce Underwood, particularly after the kid was very open and vocal about the fact that he was concerned about quarterback development at the University of Michigan.
I would have thought that would have been part of the package. Like I would have thought his camp would have said, "Yeah, we'll take $12 million and we, you know what I mean?" He's had a quarterback coach for years as a high school player that's regarded-ish in the field. I would have at least thought they would have brought him along. You know what I mean?
Somebody.
Nobody. They didn't even, and you know how Michigan is, though, probably on the backside. You know, they like their own people. They're not going to let you bring in some outsider, you know. So he probably thought about, you know, hey, can I bring my quarterback coach? Michigan probably told him no, for God's sakes. But I saw another thing about Chip Lindsey. If you think about how toxic this offense was, the offensive coordinator left this program for another school, and not a single offensive player went with him from Michigan. Not one. Not a backup, not a starter. There wasn't even a rumor that somebody was like, you know, I'm going to follow Chip Lindsey. Like, so that's how not bought in that like not even one kid, not one. And I get it. It's a little bit of a downgrade to go to Missouri. Still an SEC school. They had a great season, and you work so close with an offensive coordinator, and nobody even flinched.
Yeah.
Well, that's a bad side of the ball last year.
I think part of it was, the offense was lackluster. Bryce Underwood didn't have a quarterback's coach. And then you look at what they're bringing in Jason Beck and what the offense looked like at Utah. And I think that there's a lot of guys in the building right now that are pretty excited and happy and looking forward to actually being developed. And again, I said this on the last podcast, I think that there were some good coaches in the building, a couple of which are still in the program right now. They're part of Kyle Whittingham's staff, one of those guys being Tony Alford. I think that there were good coaches on Sharon Moore's staff, but by and large, I just feel like this group entirely was completely underdeveloped, even on the offensive line. You know, when you look at some of the things that were going on in the secondary, and you know, we can have some questions about that, but you know, wide receivers. I mean, when was the last time you actually felt like you were seeing true development in the wide receiver group? Now, Andrew Marsh went out and had a hell of a true freshman season, but I think that's more of a credit to who Andrew Marsh is and the talent he came in with. I don't know that that's the result of like incredible development by Ron Bellamy. I'm not doubting that Ron Bellamy's a likable guy and that his players loved him. But at the end of the day, like, this is about development. This is about getting guys ready for the next level. When you come play D1 ball at the University of Michigan, for the vast majority of these guys, they're trying to get to the next level and play out their dream of playing in the NFL. So look, I guess where I sit here today, when you look about the guys, or when you look at the list of the guys that Kyle Whittingham has been able to retain: Bryce Underwood, Jordan Marshall, Blake Frazier, Andrew Babalola, Andrew Sprague. You know, you look at the offensive line, they're bringing a ton of guys back. Zeke Berry ended up coming back. Jair Hill in the secondary is coming back. Jordan Young entered the portal. Now he's coming back. Andrew Marsh, there's no official word on it, but again, portal closes tonight. We haven't heard anything. It sounds like he's as good as staying in Ann Arbor. Zach Marshall, Trey Pierce, Shamari Earls, Rod Moore, Dominic Nichols, Cam Brandt. I mean, go down the list. There's a lot of guys, offense and defense, that I think, credit to Kyle Whittingham being able to come into a shitty situation and retain a lot of those key players. Do you want to go through some of these guys that you're most excited about incoming from the transfer portal? Because I think they're, you know, I'll be honest, there's some names on here. I saw them pop up and I was like, who the hell is this guy? And this is one of the things about the transfer portal era now, is that you're going to hear names that you've never heard before. You're going to see guys you've never seen before. Michigan signed a couple of long snappers. They've been doing work in the transfer portal on special teams, which thank God. I know that some people roll their eyebrows and they're like, Jesus Christ, another long snapper. We've got a punter. We got a kicker. But if you watched Michigan football last year, you understand how painful it is when your special teams is a complete disaster. So thankfully, Kerry Coombs is out there doing work and Michigan is loading up on special teams. But let's talk about some of the guys we're most excited about. I mean, Jared, are there one or two guys that you've seen on that list that you thought, hey, man, this is a pretty big addition?
Yep. There's one that I want to talk about, but before I do this, you cannot endorse this guy, say he's the next best at this position. You can't say anything positive about this person.
Real bad track record with predicting wide receiver.
Okay.
I'm guessing it's going to be a wide receiver.
It's Buchanan, and he's a tight end wide receiver. Man, he's just a stud. I think I tried to share with you that video of him like playing on the ball court, you know, and just hooping and he's just an athlete, man. He looks like. And I think when you shared it on the Facebook page, one of the fans said he looks like more of a receiver, which he does. I think he's
I mean, he is more of a receiver, and they've got him listed
at
body,
right? 208 pounds, 110 pounds.
They've got him listed at wide receiver when they announced. Yeah, so he's good. He's good.
They had him as a tight end. I'm like, that ain't. So I'm excited for that kid, man. He looks athletic. He looks like a kind of like a freak, you know what I mean? And hopefully they can use him. He was pretty high rated in the portal too. I think he was, a top 20 guy. When I looked last time, Rivals or On3 had him in the top 20. Which was weird to me anyways, because they didn't have Justice Haynes in the top 20, which was odd to me. But Buchanan is one I'm excited for because that's what we wanted, right? When everybody was talking about receivers. We need receivers. So if I had to pick one guy, that would be the one that I'm kind of excited about.
Yeah.
What about you? Which one sticks out to you?
Well, I mean, I'm not allowed to say JJ Buchanan at this point. I am. Listen, I'm not. Here's what I'm not going to say he's going to be a guy or the guy, but you look at his production as during freshman season. I mean, 26 receptions, 427 yards. He had 5 touchdowns. He played most of his snaps at wide receiver, and he is a guy that's a playmaker. He is a guy that can go out and up and snag the ball. He's quick and he's got a little bit of an edge to him, which I like. I like guys that have a little bit of that, that toughness to him, and so. Yeah, this portal season for us was about how many weapons can you surround Bryce Underwood with? And when you look at JJ Buchanan, when you look at Jamie French is another guy, wide receiver from Texas. He's a guy that a lot of people are excited about. Doesn't have a lot of production, but a former high 4-star, 5-star type recruit.
Yeah, French, yep.
Yeah, but he's another guy that people are excited about. And so I think that, Whittingham knows that he's got to add weapons. And I think another big part of that is making sure you keep Andrew Marsh. So when you look at Andrew Marsh, JJ Buchanan, and Jamie French, I think that those are 3 solid weapons when you compare what Bryce Underwood was working with last year. To me, it seems that they've made an upgrade there. So I'm pretty excited about what they've done as far as wide receivers are concerned. I don't think that they're going to be adding any more there. One of the guys that I'm really excited about is Smith Snowden, who's a 2-way player from Utah. He's a veteran guy. He's an all Big 12 player. That's going to be a huge boost in the Michigan secondary for sure. He's a veteran. He talked about why he chose to come to Michigan. And he was pretty, he said all the things you would want to hear from a guy. He said, the opportunity to play in the big house, the opportunity to wear the winged helmet, I would never pass that up. And for Smith Snowden, a guy who's a veteran now, a guy who's experienced, I'm excited to see what he can do. And I like the fact that he's got a little bit of that 2-way player in him. Maybe you can see him sprinkled in on offense and become another one of those weapons for Bryce Underwood in certain packages. So I'm excited about Smith Snowden. I'm excited about JJ Buchanan. Let's see if there's another list on here.
The hardest part in this portal so far has been dealing with French's last name. I thought I was just typing it wrong.
French?
Did somebody just spell his name wrong on his birth certificate and they just wrote?
I'll tell you what. There's a handful. There's a handful of names. A lot of them are coming from Utah that I'm not sure about. Yeah. Houston. And I don't want to slaughter it, but this guy's from the
honestly, we should do a piece where you throw those up and we'll take turns trying to say some of these. I'm with
Houston Kaahania Torres, offensive lineman from Nebraska. Maybe I got that right. Maybe I didn't. John Henry Daly from Utah, the edge rusher. I know he's been dealing with injury. We're not really sure where he's going to be at heading into 2026, but I think he's got 2 or 3 years of eligibility left. And once he gets fully healthy, that's a guy that's going to be a game wrecker on Michigan's defensive line. And then another one I'm intrigued about is Taylor Tatum out of Oklahoma. I know that he was in the mix during his recruiting process with Michigan. Obviously, Michigan didn't land him, but with Justice Haynes off to Georgia Tech, there's an opportunity for somebody in that running back room to really assert themselves as RB2. And I think Taylor Tatum's got as good of a shot as any. I mean, you've got
we finished second on him.
You got Jordan Marshall that's going to lead the way. He's going to be your bell cow, but then you got Savion Hyder coming in. You got Taylor Tatum there. You lost Jasper Parker to the transfer portal, and you lost Bryson Cusdahl to the transfer portal. So to me, that seems like that's going to be your top 3. I just think that Kyle Whittingham has done a really good job of adding certain pieces offensively that are really going to help boost what they're trying to do. Defensively, there's still some question marks. I know the biggest one is at linebacker. Michigan has some guys returning there, but I feel like when you lose a guy like Cole Sullivan and you lose a guy like Ernest Hausman and you lose a guy like Jimmy Rolder, right now, it doesn't feel like Michigan is replacing that with equal or better talent at this point. I know there's still some hope that we're going to see that. But let me see who we brought in. You got Christian Pierce at linebacker out of Western Illinois, and you got Max Alford from BYU, who I believe is Tony Alford's nephew. I'm pretty sure. He's in the family
over as a receiver.
His son
Yeah.
came over from Butler
Yeah.
as a wide receiver.
I mean, both those linebackers. So if you look at their stat line, they're pretty solid. And then you got Trey Bowles as a linebacker too, right?
Yes. Yeah. Trey Bowles.
So he's coming back.
You got
right?
Chase Taylor, Nathaniel Owusu Boateng, and you got
Who's
Troy
gonna make a
Bowles.
big up. Watch what say his name again. Boateng.
Nathaniel Owusu Boateng. See, that's another one. I'm trying.
You're
I'll give
good.
it.
You're good. We got to give him a nickname, but I think he's going to take a big leap this year, man. I think he's going to be special. So I think the linebackers, I think it's going to be solid. I think getting who got Pierce stayed? Didn't Trey Pierce stay?
Trey Pierce stayed. Yep, he made.
Yeah, I
the
think that's a
announcement.
big. I think that's a big one. I think we got keeping a couple edge guys in Nichols and Etta.
Dominic Nichols and Cam Brandt and Etta is probably going to be coming back.
You add Henry in there, so now Henry has had some injuries, so he won't be ripping 90% of the snaps. So that's what those edge guys when we're strong is when we can rotate guys in and out and keep them fresh. And so I think they did a good job along the defensive line. You got Nate Marshall coming back. He's going to take a big jump his second year. Carter Meadows saying that he could see the field early. I mean, there's some good pieces, man. This is on paper, Chris, just say it, probably undefeated, right? I mean, 16-0. I mean, who's going to stop them? Say it, Chris. Buchanan's going to win the Biletnikoff and
no, I think. Listen, I'm not there, right? I'm not overly geeked about what's happening right now, but I feel. Look, man, I feel like Whittingham is putting together a roster that's at least going to be capable of competing in the Big Ten. And that's really what you want to see out of Michigan. There were so many times last year and really during Sharon Moore's 2 years where the talent didn't match up with the production. The talent didn't match up with what we were seeing on the football field. And too often Michigan just looked completely uncompetitive or not competitive against certain teams that they were playing. And I don't think Michigan's going to go undefeated. In fact, I think this is probably, and when you look at that schedule, you've got Oklahoma, you got to go on the road to Oregon, you got to go on the road to Ohio State, you play Indiana, you play Penn State, you play Michigan State. Who knows what you're going to get out of the Spartans? I would venture to say they're probably going to be a little bit better than what they were, but who knows what you're going to get out of that game. At the end of the day, though, I still think that this is probably a 2 or 3 loss regular season for this team. But what I'm really looking for is to see, are they more competitive in big games? Like, are they able to hang with Oklahoma? Are they able to go on the road in Eugene in a difficult environment and play with the Ducks, who are going to get back veteran quarterback in Dante Moore? I mean, that's going to be another team that's going to be right in the mix of the national championship. Can they go down to Columbus? And can they look like they belong and not get the doors blown off? And I'm not trying to lower the standard for Michigan. Obviously, you don't want to sit here and say, well, I just hope they compete, and they look like they belong. But really, that's been such a problem for this program for the last 2 years is when they don't belong or when they're playing against that upper tier of talent, like they look really bad and the wheels come off and they just don't look like they're built to battle. And Jared, I said this to you before we went live that I feel like the biggest benefit you're going to see with Kyle Whittingham and this staff is I think in 2026, you're going to see a football team that's disciplined and well coached. And I'm really excited to see what a solid, experienced, borderline elite coaching staff can do with a Michigan football roster and what that looks like in the Big Ten. I just think you're going to see a level of maturity out of these guys that you haven't seen over the last 2 years. And I think Kyle Whittingham is going to be a big part of that. And I think he's bringing in guys that he knows are going to fit that culture that he's trying to build and reestablish in Ann Arbor. So that's what I'm mostly excited for. What do I think that's going to mean in terms of wins and losses? Again, I think it's another 2 or 3 losses in the regular season, but I think you're going to see a team that's far more disciplined, far more competitive. Jared, I guess I would ask for you, how would you define success next year for Kyle Whittingham? Like for you, is it wins and losses? Is it for you the college football playoff? Like what are you looking or hoping to see out of this program in year 1 under Whittingham?
Yeah, I'm with you. I want to see discipline. I want to see structure. But I'm really looking to see if Bryce takes that leap because now he's going to have a dedicated quarterback coach. He's going to have an offensive coordinator with a proven track record, and you got a coach that obviously a head coach that's going to let those coordinators do their job, which is something we thought was kind of muddled up this year. Was Chip Lindsey actually calling the plays? Was he not? There's clear delineation here with this team. Like I'm the head coach, you're the offensive coordinator, you do your thing. So, and he trusts these guys. He brought guys that he trusts. So I think I'm with you. I still think it's college football playoff though. I mean, 3 losses is, that's not going to be acceptable. And I think that Bryce will take a big enough leap and he's got some player makers around him now that that the offense can be a viable threat. I mean, they just weren't this year. That defense was, and then in the bad games, everything was bad. They just looked completely outclassed, man. Like that USC game, I think you and I stopped texting. It was got so bad, like we weren't even talking about the game anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even want to talk about what I'm watching. Like 2 a.m. the lights came on. Michigan's not the pretty girl anymore. So
the shine came off of that game real quick, and I think that's the shame of it, right? Like I can't really go back and pick any of them out. How many times have you seen Michigan suffer a good loss? And when I say good loss, I mean, like, look, one team's going to win, one team's going to lose, but sometimes you see classics where like both teams are battling and it's just one team makes one more play and comes out ahead, but both sides can walk away. Even if you're on the losing end, both sides can walk away and say, damn, that was an incredible football game.
2006 Ohio State-Michigan game, right? 42-39.
There you go.
They both won that game. Like, that was incredible. Just who had the ball last? Who had the ball last?
Who was it? Ohio State.
Yeah, they won. That's what I'm saying. That's how it was. That game was who had the ball last. It was, they both were phenomenal that game. They both played almost flawless, and somebody had to lose, and somebody's making fun of
CJ says there's no such thing as a pretty loss, but if they look competitive and lose, it's easier to handle. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, nobody wants to lose. I understand that, but there are times where like classic football games where two teams show up and they battle, and it's just an incredible thing to watch as a fan. And I just feel like so often with Michigan, sexy loss, but so often when Michigan loses, it's like, it's an ugly loss, man. They look like they didn't even belong on the field. And they looked like that against Oklahoma. Granted, I know it was week 2 on the road with a true freshman quarterback. Some of that's to be expected. But they looked that way also against USC on the road. They looked that way against Texas, where like first half, it looked like, it was hard, physical, ready to compete. And then the second half, the wheels completely came off. And then obviously at home against Ohio State, I mean, I'm not going to try to relitigate that game, but you throw 5 passes in the first half with your young quarterback. And now, Jared, all of those things make sense, right? It was like, well, why isn't Bryce doing this? And you watch the Texas game and he's throwing off his back foot and he's like whipping his leg around. He's throwing the ball out of bounds. And it's like, why is this shit happening? And you've got people that are saying like, well, it's on Bryce. It's, Bryce isn't this. Like, we got to get rid of Bryce. We got to move on from Bryce. Turns out he didn't even have the coaching that he needed in order to progress. And so all the things, questions, and concerns we were seeing on the field, it all makes sense now. It just complete coaching malpractice from the previous regime.
100%. And like we said about after the Texas game, right? The Texas-Michigan game, because you and I had watched the Texas-Ohio State game. Remember what Arch looked like? Looked like Bryce. Back foot, side arming it, doing whatever he wanted. Look at him against Michigan. That's what happens when you have a dedicated staff that says this is our star quarterback and he needs to be developed. Like I saw the Urban Meyer thing, right? They were talking about, or maybe it was Woodward Sports was saying, like, you have an assistant tight ends coach, but you don't have a quarterback coach. Like, what are we doing? We need 2 guys to train the tight ends, but we don't need anybody to train our 5-star future NFL quarterback. We just let him go winging around by himself. And then you think back to all the times that Moore talked about Underwood being at the facility and he'd have to text him and tell him to leave. He's just out there teaching himself. Like, what I assumed somebody else was there with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, maybe you go down there and, I don't know, coach him. Like,
it's
what a travesty.
Insane that it happened. But again, I mean, you're right. The Arch Manning thing is a perfect example. We watched that game week 1 against Ohio State, and we were both shocked at how just flustered he looked. I mean, he was doing a lot of different stuff to try to like squeeze the ball into places he shouldn't have been doing it. His mechanics looked completely off. And I remember it was like, I was shocked at that performance. And then you fast forward all the way to the game against Michigan, and Arch looks like a Heisman Trophy candidate. And he will be one of the favorites next year. And so I think what he did against Michigan was a big part of laying the foundation for that. And so, yeah, man, it's a shame that you didn't see that development. But again, I think that if you never want it to happen the way that it happened, it sucks that it had to go the way it did. But it really does feel like Michigan has come out ahead with this coaching transition and who they've got in place. And, it's that Rolling Stones song, right? Like, we were talking about all these names and people we wanted. And it's like, you can't always get what you want, but if you try some time, you might find you get what you need. And I feel like Kyle Whittingham is exactly what Michigan needs right now to get them back on the right path.
Look at you.
I do find this interesting. Hey, I didn't sing it this time.
That was impressive, though. I like it.
Before we get out of the show, though. I didn't sing it. But I do find this interesting, and I'm wondering if you've seen this. Have you seen the Utah faithful start to turn on Kyle Whittingham?
Yeah.
Because for those who aren't,
we've been there.
Spending every waking hour on social media, particularly over on Twitter, where it's significantly worse than anywhere else. There was a period of time where Utah fans and Michigan fans had like coalesced, and it felt like there was this strange brotherhood developing. It was Utah fans who were kind of sad to lose Kyle Whittingham, but they were excited that he was being embraced by Michigan, and there was like this whole love fest going on. Fast forward to right now, Utah fans, a good chunk of them have not only written Kyle Whittingham off, not only are they basically distancing themselves from him, but they view him as a snake, somebody who's pillaged the program, somebody who's tried to take recruits, somebody who's tried to take top players. Have you seen this? I just think this is a weird thing that's happened.
Really, man, I'm going to put it to you real easy, right? I'm going to give you a real good analogy here. It's like you give your buddy a beer, like, that's cool. Let's have a beer. We share it. Yeah. And the son of a bitch takes the whole case. Now you're mad. You go back, you ain't got no beer. But Utah has not, like, they took every. I think the straw that broke the camel's back is when I'm not even gonna try to say his name. Young 5-star entered the portal after 1 week of college, right? Like he was like,
Celeste Moa.
Yeah, maybe I do want to go to Michigan. I think that's when they were like, all right, enough. Like now you're taking guys who are in class. Like you just swooped in the middle of psychology and snatched the kid out. You know what I mean? Like. That's what's happening. We gave you a beer. You can have the old coach. That's cool. But then we took everything else. But everything that was worth a shit,
I get that, and I'm sure it sucks to be on the other end of it. And by the way, the funniest things have been the Utah fans that were like, all of this happened because Sharon Moore decided to like around with a staff member. Like our whole team is falling apart because of what he decided to do. And it's funny because it's true. But as far as the Kyle Whittingham thing, I mean, dude, he spent 32 years at Utah, which is like unheard of in the coaching profession for one guy to stay somewhere 32 years. He was there for 32 years. He became the all-time winningest coach in Utah history. This is a guy who I think he won coach of the year. He led them to an undefeated season. Like Kyle Whittingham is the reason why Utah is not just respected on a national level, but the reason why Utah is even known on a national level is because of Kyle Whittingham. And so, of course, when he moves on somewhere else, and this was already in the works, everybody already knew that Whittingham was going to be moving on. Of course, when he moves on and he ends up with another team, he's going to do everything he can to help that team win. And sometimes that means taking guys who were on your staff. Sometimes that means bringing guys over that you recruited, that you led the effort to bringing into your program. And I get it's a tough pill to swallow. But at the end of the day, like if you're a Utah fan and you feel anything other than grateful for Kyle Whittingham for spending 32 years with your program, then you're doing it wrong. Because what he did out there is completely unheard of.
Michigan did it to Harbaugh when, you know what I mean? Like he won the Natty and went to the NFL and we were all like, oh, good for him. And then he took this guy and then he took that guy and then he took Ben Herbert from us. You know what I mean? And
he didn't take Sharon Moore, damn it.
He didn't take Sharon. But I got kind of tired of it after a minute. Like enough, man. Like, you know what I mean? So I get it. Plus, even no matter what you say, and you nailed it, right? He made Utah really relevant. But it still is not Michigan relevant. So your buddy moves on and he goes to a better place and he can bring you with him. He's going to do it. The Arizona State's coach even said that, right? When he was being talked about, he said, like, you always want to elevate the people around you. And Michigan is an elevation, Turns out he was never offered the job, but he mentioned it, that's an elevated move. You bring all your OCs up, your coordinators and everything. So, but no, I get it, and it's funny. I do like it. It does make me laugh.
I was starting to like those Utah folks, and then all of a sudden they started to get all in feelings about Kyle Whittingham trying to win in Ann Arbor at all costs, and it's like, hey, like this is where we're at now in college football. Get out of your feelings. It's all transactional, and when a coach moves on, especially if he goes to another program, a blue blood program like Michigan, he's going to try to do whatever he can, load his arsenal in any way that he can to win a championship. That's why, again, make no mistake, that's why Kyle Whittingham came to Michigan. That's why he took this job at 66 years old, because it's one of a few places where he feels like he can go and legitimately compete for a national championship. And I think that's one of the benefits. Like there was this concern about about like, well, he's old, he's 66. Like, do we really want an old guy? Listen, this guy is at the tail end of his career. He knows the window is closing. He's got a very small window to try to win a national championship. And I think there are very few guys who are as motivated as Kyle Whittingham to prove he can win it all at a place like Michigan. And so I think that him being at the tail end of his career could actually work out quite nicely for the Wolverine faithful.
He's a Hall of Fame quarterback or a coach without one thing.
Without one thing.
All the other Hall of Fame coaches have.
From all I've heard about him is he's a pretty competitive guy. He's pretty locked in. He wants to win, maybe to a fault, but he wants to win. I think this is going to end up, I'm completely here for it. And a no nonsense, no BS type head coach who's all about football and wants to get back to the business of football. So yeah, man, I think that this could work out quite nicely for the Wolverines. But again, when you look at the guys that he was able to retain, the guys that are coming back. And we're going to see more announcements coming out here in the coming days of guys who never left but are still announcing that they're coming back. You're going to see more of that. You're going to see more portal additions. I just think he's going about it the right way. What that looks like on fall Saturdays, how competitive Michigan is going to be, that remains to be seen. But, it's hard not to like at least the direction of where things are headed. It feels like Michigan is in a better spot now going into 2026 than the program would have been under Sharon Moore with bringing back everybody that you possibly could. I guess let's transition there because we talked about some of the things that we like about people that are coming in. Which of these losses do you think are the most significant, the most painful, the ones where you would have tried to do more to keep them in the building if you could?
I'm kind of tied between two. Obviously, Cole Sullivan. I thought the kid had a lot of potential, and I still think he does, obviously. But and then Hillman hit me because he just seemed like the heart and soul of the defense, right? Like he's like that heavy hitter that can change. Like I saw games last year, the defense was kind of, they were kind of not engaged, and he'd just go crush somebody and just change the whole mood of that core of guys, and I was kind of surprised that he left. But I think he went back to Virginia and he's from there, right? So I kind of get it. You get the change of coaching and scenery, and you don't really jive with it, or you don't like it, so you go home. So I don't even know that he left for money, to be honest with you, because he went to Virginia. And I don't feel like they're a competitor on the NIL scale with us. You know what I mean? Not something that we certainly couldn't have been like, we'll give you a couple hundred more. You know what I mean? So I feel like there was maybe just some differences of opinion moving forward. And yeah.
Could be. And I think there was also a realization that Kyle Whittingham was going to bring guys into the secondary and that Brandon Hillman was probably going to be in a position where he had to compete. And then I also think there's a situation with like Virginia, and this is what I was talking about before in terms of like being able to build depth. Regardless of where Brandon Hillman was on the depth chart, that is a perfect example of a guy who, if he's not going to get the max at Michigan, is probably going to go chase the max somewhere else because there's probably going to be a bigger need. Like at Virginia, there's clearly a bigger need for a Brandon Hillman than there is at Michigan, and a bigger need probably means a bigger payday. Even if Virginia isn't on the same level as Michigan in terms of NIL, individually speaking, they can maybe offer these guys a little bit more and say, hey, like you're going to star in our defense. Like you're not, I guess, yes, on the surface, everything is going to be a competition. You're going to compete, but we view you as a star on the defense. I don't know that he was getting that from Michigan. Again, I'm speculating on all of that, but I think that's why, year to year, man, this is just going to be, until there are some significant changes made with the transfer portal, this is how it's going to be every single year. You're going to go through a single season with some of these guys, and just when you get to week 12 and you're starting to figure out who you have and get excited about some of these young freshmen that are starting to make an impact, you're going to enter the offseason, and a lot of those guys you were excited about are going to be in the portal, and they're probably going to be getting a payday somewhere else. Is that good for the sport, Jared? I don't know. I mean, I think it's, I think that I like the idea that like a guy like Justice Haynes is a perfect example, right? He turned down the NFL, an opportunity to go play in the NFL. And I don't know where he would have been drafted had he gone pro this time around, but I think he would have been one of the top running backs selected. But instead of going to the league, he decided to come back to school for another year. I say school loosely. He decided to come back to college for another year and probably due in big part to the fact that he's getting a massive bag out there at Georgia Tech to come back and play college football for another season. So if there is one benefit to this transfer portal thing and NIL, I think it's because you get guys who are going to stay in college football a little bit longer and develop themselves a little bit more. But, that's the good side of it, I suppose, is that you get some of these top tier players for a little bit longer than you would have otherwise when the only payday was waiting in the NFL. But the downside to it, to me, man, is this turnover, the amount of guys, you got a guy making 7 or 8 transfers during his collegiate career. You've got 6,000 people entering the portal in one cycle. Again, is it sustainable? I'm not sure. I think if you're a head coach, I just don't know how you can ever get excited about what you have on your roster, particularly the young guys, when they have every incentive in the world after a season to put themselves in the portal and go test the market. Maybe they'll come back. Maybe they won't. I think
it's culture too, right? And that's something that you might not experience with Michigan. If Whittingham, coaches the way we think he's going to coach and builds what we think he's going to build, kids want to stay, then they won't jump in the portal. They'll just handle it behind the scenes like we think Marsh did, right? But yeah, and unless there's some kind of salary cap they got work to do on this portal to get this changed, because eventually you're going to drive fans away a little bit. They're going to get not as interested, right? The fringe fans that you're holding on to are going to be like, this is just chaos. I'm not even going to deal with this. The guys like you and I are making tens of dollars reporting on it. We're going to stick it out. You know what I mean? Like, I got it. You're not getting paid?
Tens of dollars?
What the hell is even that?
Oh boy.
I keep checking, but I haven't gotten a check in the mail yet, but it's coming.
That payday's coming, Jared. That payday is coming.
Wait it up. It's exhausting. I feel bad I feel bad. You think about the fan that's really not fully engaged next year. They're going to come to a game and be like, wait, who the hell are these guys?
The only thing they're going to know is Bryce Underwood, and I think that's the only thing they're really going to.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, that's the only thing they're really going to care about.
It's a new present for them every year. It's brand new.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying, is that I just feel like, to the average fan, to the casual fan who doesn't spend every waking hour following transfer portal, whatever, they're just going to show up and they're going to see number 19 out there and they're going to be happy and they're going to think Michigan is, has a shot to be just as good as they've ever been. And I think, it's really only for the people who are in it every single day where it can feel exhausting when you look at all the turnover from one year to the next. Look, man, I'm at a point right now where I'm over it. I'm excited for the portal to close tonight so that we have a much better idea of who we can count on being here next year. And I think Michigan's going to get a lot of firepower back. And I think they're going to be able to compete for, I say compete for a Big Ten championship. I'll be honest. I don't really give a shit about the Big Ten championship at this point. Did you hear that, by the way, that the Big Ten is sort of leading this effort to
24 team?
Yeah, get rid of the conference championships and expand the college football playoff to 24 teams. We haven't talked about that, Jared. I'm curious. What are your thoughts on that? How do you feel about the expansion from 12 teams? I mean, there was a talk about moving up to 16. Now we're already talking about a push to 24. I mean, thoughts on that?
I feel like it's inevitable, man. The money's they got this cash cow now, and they're I think they're starting to realize that fans don't give a shit about the conference championships anymore, because all it does is potentially hurt your team if they lose, right? So nobody even wants it. They want to end the regular season, say I'm in, let me in. You know what I mean? I agree with Dominic. Now there's culture in the Big Ten, right, and tradition about winning a Big Ten championship. So does it just become regular season? Okay, I think it's killing conferences. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I agree with it. I'm as a fan. 100%. I don't want Michigan going and lose. You know what I mean? Like we talked about this year, there was a way they could have played themselves in with 2 losses and picked up that 3rd loss, and
right.
then screwed. Alabama barely slid in with 3 losses, and they didn't. mean,
But in a way, Alabama got
the game.
rewarded by making the conference championship, even though they lost and got their ass kicked. They still got the benefit of the doubt and ended up in the college football playoff, and then they got their asses kicked by Indiana, which a juggernaut team. A juggernaut team. I think we'll find out on Monday. I think Indiana is going to get a real test on that. Mike Shook from the Facebook page says, any more word about Etta and his return? Not officially. All I've heard is that it seems highly probable that he's going to return to Michigan. I think right now it's just a matter of working out the details and whatever contract he's going to sign. But I think that it's far more likely than not that he's going to be playing football in Ann Arbor next year. When it comes to the college football playoff expansion and eliminating the conference championships, I mean, I guess, it seems like that's where it's trending. And I think, under the current format, playing in the Big Ten championship or any conference championship doesn't necessarily serve you well. I just think it's another one of those things that I hate. We've gotten to that point where like the Big Ten championship used to mean so much, and now it's just kind of this another stepping stone where it's like maybe you want to be there, maybe you don't even want to be there, but really what you're thinking about is the college football playoff. And is it better, to go from 12 to 16 and then eventually 24 teams in the college football playoff? I just when you look at the season, Jared, and you look at the top 25 and you get to the end of the season in the top 25, to me, there is a very big difference between the teams that are like in the top 10 and the teams that are like, 25 through 20. And I think you're going to see that play out if you do expand to 24 teams. I don't know that there's ever going to be a Cinderella situation, but there's some that argue and advocate and say, like, look at Indiana. If Indiana is not a Cinderella situation, this is a team that was one of the worst in the Big Ten a couple of years ago. Now here they are playing for a national championship. If that's not a Cinderella team, what is? I mean, Jared, do you think
that's not a Cinderella team though? That's a monstrous team that got put together. I mean, Cinderella teams are like teams. They come out of nowhere. Like Indiana didn't come out of anywhere. They rebuilt that program in the portal with what's out. Like what you're talking about, and I agree with you. You're talking about right. The final AP 25 before they released after the championship. Obviously, you had Indiana, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas Tech, Oregon, top 5. Your bottom 5, and imagine if they played, were Arizona, Navy, North Texas, Georgia Tech, and Missouri. None of those 5 teams would have a chance at beating any of those top teams in a play. Like, it's just Navy. God bless my service schools, obviously being in the military, but it ain't gonna happen, dog. It ain't gonna happen. Like, it's just the gap is gonna be incredible, and I get it. People talk about college basketball too, right? Like 16 seeds beat 1 seeds. Okay, I mean it's gonna happen. It's happened twice in history,
right?
Football's different, man. It's not like basketball where you can get hot from behind the 3-point line. And, Seth Curry, when he was in college, could win games from the 3-point line, right? Like he was that good. Football, it's a size issue. You know what I mean? It's a 5-star athlete is different than a 2-star athlete in football. It's such a big difference.
Well, it's Georgia TCU in the college football playoff, right? Like I know TCU is behind Michigan, but when they got up against like a team that was a legitimate national championship contender, like the wheels came off pretty quick and it was pretty ugly. Chris Lewis from the Facebook page, I hope I got that right, says expanded playoff means more travel for the fans. Yeah, there's no question. It means more travel. It means far bigger expenses. Jared, you and I were talking about prices to just park at the national championship game. Like even finding a parking spot for the upcoming national championship game, they're like going for like $700 or $800 to park your car. The tickets are like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to get in. I just, to me, this is a whole other side of what's happening with college football, to where I just don't know how the average fan, like the average Miami fan, the average Indiana fan, like, maybe you're getting your tickets some other way. I have no idea how, with an expanded playoff field, you're going to be able to afford and I don't know, follow your team for what, 4, 5 playoff games. I mean, it's going to cost you like $10,000 to travel to these things.
Yeah.
When I went to the playoffs with Michigan, right? They played in Pasadena, and then they went to Houston for the national championship. I mean, that was like, I didn't even have to pay for tickets to get in because I was credentialed and shooting on the sideline. And I still ended up dropping like $5,000 or $6,000 in travel and different. I didn't have to pay. I had to pay a little bit for the hotel, but I got the media rate. But like even with all those perks I was getting, it was still like $5,000 or $6,000 out of pocket.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It ain't happening. I got kids.
Alan Rader from the YouTube page says, "Can't we sign these players to multi-year contracts? That way they're locked in." Yeah, I mean, I think that. Hold on, let me pull it up on the.
I think that's what's happening, right? Did you see? I just read an article before we got on here about the Duke. What the hell was that?
What's going on with that profile picture here?
Good. Whoa, what is that? Oh yeah, blow that. We gotta blow that up just to make sure. What is that?
Can't hate on it. I can't hate on it.
What is on this, my friend? You're busted. Oh my goodness! I can hear her coming down the steps right now. Here she comes.
I didn't say I was making. I'm disgusted by what I'm seeing there.
That's a travesty. Anyways, Duke, their quarterback. They're talking about who's trying to poach him.
Miami, isn't it?
Miami. And they were offering to buy him out, which implies that he signed some kind of deal. And they're saying we'll buy out the contract for $10 million. But no, I'm with Alan Rader, and we've talked it a few times, you and I, and on this podcast, that it's time to start signing contracts. Listen, you're gonna get this money, but if you bounce, you're gonna owe it back. You know what I mean? That's what we're at now, right? How else are you gonna keep guys from? Or just performance contract, something, you know what I mean? You can't, because we can't do this every year.
Yeah, but the distinction, right? Isn't there still a debate on whether or not these guys are professionals or they're still student athletes, and what that distinction is, and legally how does that hold up? And I think that's why you have guys that are signing contract. Damon Williams with Washington was another perfect example, right? Where he signed like a $4 million deal, and then he was like, I'm entering the portal, and I'm going to go elsewhere. And they were threatening litigation, right? Like this was going to go to court. And I think that if you start to do these multi-year deals, even though I agree with it, even though I think that, that's probably what you should do. I mean, Jared, you and I have talked about it. I think that when you're a true freshman and you sign with a school, I think you absolutely 100% must be there for your freshman and sophomore season, no questions asked. I don't think you should be allowed to transfer until you get into your junior season. So if you're a junior, senior, grad transfer, then you can entertain the transfer portal. But when you're a true freshman and a sophomore, I feel like you got to be locked
unless
into
a coaching switch. That's what you said.
Unless there's a coaching switch, then you can enter the portal. But outside of that, it's a 2-year commitment to your program, because I think for a head coach, we talk about developing these guys and trying to figure out what you have. If you've got a true freshman who really comes out and establishes himself, and then you got to risk losing them right after their freshman season, like, to me, that's got to be the biggest kick in the dick as a head coach there can possibly be. Now, the counter argument would be, well, just pay them what they're worth or whatever, but you can't always do that. I've said this before, like, not every player can get max dollars on a roster, and that's why it's so hard to build depth, because all of these guys who are on your roster, a good chunk of them can go get max money elsewhere for a team that has bigger need or doesn't have as much depth. And so if you're a head coach trying to build depth in today's day and age, good luck trying to convince a guy to come to the University of Michigan as a role player. Because if that guy's good enough to play at Michigan as a role player, there's a damn good chance he can go play somewhere else as a starter and get paid more money to do it.
Yeah, it turns out just sheer genius by Sharon Moore not developing Bryce this year so that he wasn't a threat to go in.
Oh my God.
He wasn't developed.
I didn't even think about that.
Incredible genius.
Seriously, you know what? I mean, think about that. Would Bryce Underwood still be in Ann Arbor if he had like the kind of year most people thought he was going to have? If he goes out
3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns,
4,000 yards, 25 to 30 touchdowns, he's lighting it up. Is he even still in Ann Arbor right now?
You all day. He's at. Thank you, Sharon Moore, for saving our quarterback. Genius.
That is an interesting way. See, that's why I like you. You're a glass half full type guy.
Don't you never know like call me man the game.
Exactly what he said.
Let's see here if I can get a couple questions here as we're at 57 minutes. Jared, I know that you are on a very strict schedule here. So
I got a date with my my kiddos in Ann Arbor at some. What was the restaurant?
I don't know where I'm going. The Dixboro Project, I think it's called Dixboro Project. Yeah. Let's see here. I'm looking for some question marks.
Have any of the fans eaten at Dixboro Project?
Dixboro Project in Ann Arbor. Another place I like to go is
Chris tells me, so I can still cancel this reservation.
I like to go to the Union Rec. That's kind of one of my favorite places. It's not like the fanciest place that's in Ann Arbor, but the vibe in there is cool. They do barbecue. That's
We're
like
bougie over here, Chris. So
I'm bougie. I'm a bougie guy.
Oh, Blimpie Burger. These fans can't be taken serious.
Blimpie Burger. Frida Petito.
Somebody says Taco Bell, I'm leaving the pod right now.
The seating in there sucks. Let's see.
At Blimpie Burger?
No, at Frida Petito's.
Oh,
The food is incredibly good. I just hate the seating situation.
Okay.
It's like picnic tables, and it's always super busy, and it's just hard to find a place to sit in there. From the YouTube page, Florida 1289 says these guys clearly have no clue how much Michigan is spending, and if they think Bryce didn't get a huge raise, they're naive. Everyone did. Yeah,
I don't believe that Bryce Underwood got a raise.
Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I have no idea, and it doesn't really. I guess I don't understand what the point of this statement is. Like, no, I don't know how much Michigan is spending.
Do you want me to clarify it for you, just like I did before?
Go ahead. Like, what's the point of the statement?
The point is, Chris, that these guys clearly have no clue how much Michigan is spending. And if they think Bryce didn't get a huge raise, they're naive. Everyone did.
And boom goes the dynamite.
Exactly.
Listen,
it's clear as mud.
I would assume Michigan is somewhere between where most top tier programs are. I don't know, 25, 30 million to 30 to 40, somewhere in that neighborhood. I'm sure they're spending quite a bit of money to put this roster together. And maybe Bryce did get some sort of incentive to stay. I'm not sure. But the overall point is he did end up staying. And there are other programs that could probably offer Bryce just as much money as Michigan did. But to Jared's point, I think if he had went and balled out as a true freshman and put up 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, and looked everybody's elite as we think he can be, maybe things look a little bit differently, or maybe you do see him enter the portal, or maybe you see some other. It never felt like there was ever a real fear that Michigan was going to lose Bryce Underwood. And I guess that to me, maybe that's like, you didn't really even hear any teams that were surfacing. There was no conversation about, there's this team going hard after
rumors, nothing. Yeah,
there was none of that. And so again, Jared, I mean, very astute point. Thank you, Sharon Moore, for not getting Bryce Underwood a quarterback's coach and giving him at least one more year at the University of Michigan. Here's one question from the YouTube page. I haven't read it, so I'm going to try to work my way through it here. You guys think if a developmental fee had to be paid to schools in order for a player to transfer, that would slow the portal, say $500,000? And so that's from Tim L 1997. So are you basically saying, this is a fee they pay back to the school for developing them? Is that
or the other school? What I've seen is the other school has to pay it, right? So Michigan swoops in and snags a lower power school player. They got to pay that school.
Or maybe it's not even a low. Maybe it's Clemson. Clemson has a true freshman defensive lineman who balls out and then wants to portal and go to Michigan. It's like, okay, but Clemson, you got to pay Michigan $500,000 for that. I guess I don't know how any of this is going to be enforceable. Again, the NFL could never operate this way with every single year, your entire roster going into free agency and testing the market. Like you could not operate this way.
These guys, basically, it needs to become the minors for the NFL. Like I saw somebody here. You got to get like a CBA going, like a collective bargaining agreement. The players got to come almost unionize. Like there's got to be a salary cap. Like otherwise it's just going to be, you got billionaires buying teams. Like Mark Cuban's helping Indiana big time, right? And like they realize I can invest in something and get back a national championship. And if you don't think they're getting rings and shit on the side, hell yeah, they are. You know what I mean? Let's end it there.
Let's end it there because you mentioned Mark Cuban. We're talking Indiana. Obviously, we've got the national championship game on Monday. Jared, I'm curious to just get your thoughts there. It's obviously intriguing because I don't think there were many people that would have picked Indiana and Miami to be the final two playing for a national championship this year. But it does go to show that, hey, with NIL and the right type of coaching, any team, has the potential within reason. But, when you see a team like Indiana in the mix and now playing for a national title, they've got a Heisman Trophy winning candidate quarterback who's a little bit out there, but man, that kid can throw the football.
Kid, isn't he?
How are you feeling about Monday? How do you see it playing out?
I just don't see any weakness in this Indiana team. Like this run is incredible. They're just stomping people. They're not even. It's not even close. But Miami's got a great defense. They got a veteran quarterback and Carson Beck, who's been playing as long as I've been alive. Man, I don't know. You asked me for a prediction.
How do you see it playing out? You can give me
I think Indiana's going to win it. I think it's just that it's a magical story.
Do you think they're gonna do what they've done? Do you think it's gonna get out of control? Do you think at halftime we're gonna be thinking like, holy shit, this is the most?
I don't think it's gonna be that. I think they're gonna feel a little bit of nerves. They played at home last game, right? That mattered. They said the fans were incredible and it affected the game. They said that. This is a little bit different, neutral site. a different style.
Oh,
of team.
neutral site. It's in Miami, for Christ's sake.
well, neutral for the that's true. It's on that's tough too.
This is a home game for the Hurricanes.
Yeah, that's true. So that's gonna matter. It doesn't bring in more fans because it's just who can afford the damn tickets. It really doesn't
That's true.
matter.
Yeah.
But,
I think probably Miami people. Well, I don't know. Generally, I would think there's more money, but then again, you got Mark Cuban out there funding things, and then you saw what happened. What was it in the Peach Bowl that Indiana played, where they took over the entire stadium, right?
Well, so, ironically, I was flying to Atlanta that day of that game. Remember, I went down to Georgia.
Oh yeah.
I was spaced out. I'm like, damn, a lot of Indiana people around here. I'm like an idiot. And I texted my buddy. I'm like, this is crazy. And he's like, they're going to a game, you moron. I was on a plane full of them. So they travel. I'll tell you what, they travel.
There's some money down there in Bloomington.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Michael Irvin is fun to watch. Yeah.
Matt Kirby says Michael Irvin will be fun to watch. Look, this is why I'm 100% rooting for Indiana, in addition to the fact that it's a good story, which, by the way, how about this? Like, if Indiana goes out and shits the bed on Monday night, this whole juggernaut magical run, like, everybody's going to forget about it the next day. Like, nobody's going to remember it. It's not going to mean shit if they don't win the national championship. But Matt Kirby, Michael Irvin is the one reason why I am going to be rooting hard for the Hoosiers. I cannot stand the antics on the sideline. Did you see that video of Michael Irvin when Carson Beck ran in and scored that touchdown against Ole Miss, where Michael Irvin ran onto the sideline and was like dancing and celebrating in front of the photographers who were trying to capture that shot? Like, that shit just drove me insane. I get that guys are excited. I get that guys are animated, but when you get to the level of like a Michael Irvin animated, I can't do it. It's too much for me. I can't handle Michael Irvin fresh off of a Miami national championship. I need Indiana to bring an end to it. Put an end to Michael Irvin.
I am picking Indiana to win. I think. What do you think? You always put these questions on me, and then I don't get it right, and then I get roasted. You're in the shoot. Who
I think they're going to give something defensively that Indiana, against Ohio State, they saw a little bit of it, but I just think Miami's playing at a different level right now. I don't know. I probably got it like 34-27, something like that. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be a battle. I think Indiana's just going to make one or two more plays than Miami. But I mean, dude, how crazy is it?
Fans bring up a good point too here. New Life, F1s, whatever. Mendoza's returning home too, so that's a valid point. You want to, and again, Disney can't make a movie about this if Indiana loses, right? Like, this is a damn Disney movie right here.
If it's scripted, you know Indiana's going to win it. And that Mendoza post game interview, when they put the microphone in his face after winning a national championship, that is going to be must see TV. And you better bring an interpreter too, because you. It's sometimes it's hard to follow and it's hard to understand.
I'll break it down for him, whatever he says. That's my job.
We'll break it down when we come back on the pod. Yeah. We'll see. Today's Friday, so we'll figure out when we're going to be on next week. We'll look at our schedules here, and we're just kind of waiting for everything to slow down a little bit so that we know what the actual roster looks like heading into next year, and then we can really start to talk, what to expect, what we like about this team, and get into it a little bit deeper. But until then, it's I don't know, cross your fingers, hope everything continues to trend in the right direction. And at some point next week, we'll have a better idea of what this roster looks like. Tune into the Polynesia Bowl. It looks like Michigan's going to pick up at least one, big time commitment who was once at Utah. Now he's leaning toward Michigan, probably going to bring his brother along with him from Michigan State. I think he's a linebacker, so you could use some linebacker depth, but it looks like Michigan's going to make probably a couple more additions tonight. So keep an eye on that. And then we'll be back next week to talk about all the latest with the roster, what's next for the program. I don't know, man. Maybe we'll talk about what's been going on with me, health wise. We'll get into it. A little bit of psychology, a little bit. We can talk about shoveling out in the front. We can talk about a lot of things here on the podcast. Doesn't have to be just football. Women, I can give you advice, Jared. I know you're out there in the market. You're searching. I can. There's a lot that I can bring to this.
Oh my God! Holy shit! And we lost all the fans.
Good luck in Ann Arbor tonight, Jared. Thank you to all the fans who stopped in. We'll be back next week. I don't know, Tuesday, Thursday at some point. I'll let you guys know, but we'll see.
DJ says, give a heads up.
We will give a heads up. I appreciate it. Take care.
All right.